welcome back to Limitless Live, the show where we push past the limits. We ask the hard questions and we refuse to settle for less than the life that we deserve. I am your host, Olga Benyaminov, and I am a biochemist, a professor, an entrepreneur, a woman who is obsessed with helping people step into the most powerful version of themselves. And today I have a guest who is genuinely I really couldn't wait to bring her on the show because when I read her story, I thought this woman is a living proof that there is always another level of healing available for us. And if you're just willing to ask the right questions, she's a board certified physician assistant with more than 27 years of experience of clinical experience. She worked in OBGYN, general surgery, ENT, head and neck surgery, psychiatry. She is a functional wellness practitioner, a master Reiki practitioner, and she's certified in clinical homeopathy. But more than that, more than all those credentials, she is a woman who was struggling with her own health and got normal lab results and decided that normal was simply not good enough. What she found on the other side of her research changed everything. Please help me welcome Elena Levy. Elena, hello, welcome. I am so glad that you are here with me today.
Thank you, Olga, for such a warm introduction. It's my pleasure. I've been watching your podcasts and lives, and I always admire your passion, the way you help our community, and I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me because I'm genuinely thrilled that you are here with me today. I've been also hearing about your work, and I think that what you're going to share today is going to really mean a lot for so many women that are watching because so much of what you do speak directly about is really so important for many of us. So let's jump right into it because I want our audience to really feel who you are before we get into the clinical stuff. So tell us your story. Where did you come from? What shaped you? And how did you end up doing the work that you do today?
Thank you. So I was born in the former Soviet Union. My mom is a physician. She was an internist back in the former Soviet Union. She's a board certified psychiatrist here. My dad, he's a professor of Russian. He was a dean of the university back in the former Soviet Union. So my childhood, I was dreaming to become either a teacher or a healer. And the path led me into the medical world. I'm very passionate about being in medicine. I've been watching my mom, my uncles, and I was very inspired, but I also love to educate and teach. And I think where I am now, being a functional wellness practitioner, I can kind of connect those two worlds and be a healer and a teacher at the same time. I do have a personal story, like you said. I've been having a lot of issues through my perimenopause. I didn't know that this was called at that time. It was about 10 years ago that I've started the journey. I was waking up exhausted. I was pushing myself through my day. I was gaining the weight. I started sleeping poorly, brain fog during the day. So it was a very hard journey for me. And the labs, like you said, were normal. So I realized as a physician assistant, like as a medical practitioner, that that's not right. Something is off. And I started my journey and it led me into functional medicine world. And I studied a lot. And I realize now that functional medicine is the way to go because it's looking for a root cause of the problem, and it can give you many answers because it looks very deep with the lab work, functional testing. And then we also look at the person as a whole, at the stress levels, at the gut health, at sleep, and so on. So it's a very holistic approach, global approach to the person.
Yeah. And I absolutely love that because you have such a rich medical career and you still found yourself standing in this gap that conventional medicine could just not fill for you. And I think this is actually what makes you so powerful as the guide for other women because you actually lived it. You don't just learn in the textbook, you lived it and you learned how to change everything, which is why I'm so passionate about what you do. Because when I coach women, I coach from what I lived, not just what I've learned throughout textbooks. So you just mentioned with your personal experience, because I think the most important entry point is really when you experienced something, you had access to those medicine, right? You understood how the system works, and yet you said you were exhausted, foggy, not sleeping, gaining weight, hormonally, just basically over all over the place. And you said that your labs were fine, everything is fine. So what was that experience like, actually?
Yeah, I felt very dismissed and I felt very upset with the traditional medical system, even though I was a part of it, because I realized, we have this intuition inside of us, which tells us when something's wrong. And when they tell you that the labs are normal, you think maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm not doing it. You start blaming yourself, where it actually is not you. So when I actually did my deep testing through functional well medicine and functional testing, I did find out the root causes of the issues. And they included, let's say, low ferritin or low B12, but nobody is checking. Or like gut dysbiosis when I did my own like stool analysis and some nutrient deficiencies. So once you know, and of course, hormonal fluctuations, but you don't start with hormones. You start with stress, with sleep, with gut, with nutrient deficiencies. You replenish your body, and then your body starts functioning better. And then you can decide if you need hormones or not. But unfortunately, in the traditional world, what we try to do is we try to work a person up fast, minimal testing, try to put a diagnosis, which is like a label. And when your labs are not totally abnormal, you don't really, you don't know, like you dismiss that. You're like, oh, it's all in your head. But when you do deeper testing, deeper dive, you actually realize what's going on. And I don't blame, the traditional medicine. That's how we're taught to function because when you have 10 to 15 minutes for a visit, you can't really work the person up. You can't even get good history during that period. So that's why a functional wellness practitioner usually spends time, gets to know you as a whole, gets to go deep, even before your birth, and then all the psychological trauma, whatever it is, and then can bring it to light so the person understands what is going on and where they need to address their attention. And then it's a structured approach which
Yeah.
brings you to optimal health.
So we're going to go back to this, but I want to stop for a second with what you said. You said that there's a lot of self-doubt, right? Because I think this is one of the most dangerous, damaging actually part of the whole thing. When a woman who knows her own body goes to a doctor and leaves feeling like she's just not taken seriously. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe this is just because she's old, right? And how old ages feel. All of that basically erodes something in that woman that knows something is wrong, but there are no concrete answers. It makes that woman just stop advocating for herself and stop talking because she's not taking seriously. And we see that. We see that in the community. We see that everywhere. So tell me, what finally made you say, enough? I'm going to look at this differently.
I am a very curious person. I'm also very open-minded. So before I got to functional medicine, I actually have tried different things. Like you mentioned, I'm a master Reiki. So I thought maybe it's energy healing that I need. And it did help for sure. It helped me calm down and get better sleep because you do need to ground yourself. So that was helpful. Then, homeopathy, which also I love it because it's very natural. There's no side effect. It's basically also kind of energetic healing. and it uses power of plants.
Right.
But it was not fixing the root cause, so it would help temporarily. So with
Right.
functional medicine, you go so deep that you actually go to the root of the problem. You find where the problem is. And for different people, it's different. For different women, it will be a different root cause. For somebody, it's high stress. For somebody, it's psychological trauma in the childhood. For someone, it can be, like I said, gut dysbiosis. Maybe a lot of us have hidden parasites or bacteria or
Yeah.
fungal overgrowth, which causes your symptoms. And unless you clean it all up, you cannot really get good results, because if you throw supplements into a broken system, it's just not going to work. So you start, cleansing the system, you decrease the amount of stress, you improve sleep, and then the woman feels more energy. She doesn't have brain fog during the day. She
Right.
feels like she can function, she can recognize herself and be in her optimal well-being. And that's my goal. That's where
Right.
I am now. I feel better now than I did 10 years ago, which is great. I lost the extra weight. I'm sleeping better. I have better energy. I can work through morning till night and not feel tired, not feel like I have brain fog. And I want to share my knowledge with others because I feel it's so important for women in this stage when the hormones are up and down. And the thing is, hormones are talking to each other. Your sex hormones are not there in isolation. They work together with cortisol. They work together with your growth hormone, with the insulin. And a lot of times you start getting like pre-diabetes diagnosis or
Yeah.
pre-hypertension and start gaining weight, and you don't know, you're blaming everything on hormones, where hormones can be just a part of the picture.
And you know what you're describing is really that moment of finally seeing the real picture, which I imagine that this would be such a great relief, right, of this frustration you had. Relief that first of all you have answers now, and the frustration that actually nobody had looked at those things sooner. Whatever you're describing is so accurate. Once you knew what actually is going on in your body, you had to figure out now, how do I fix it, right? And where this whole approach really comes alive. So I want to connect it with what conventional medicine misuses, because you explained this to us, right? Um, I know that there are women watching right now that have been to their doctor. They had done the blood work. They were told that everything is normal, right? But they still feel terrible like you had. And what is the conventional lab panel actually looking like? And what is it completely missing?
Yeah. So let me give you a few examples. So first of all, you do very basic blood work, usually CBC, which is a complete blood count. You do comprehensive metabolic panel, and you do like TSH, which is one thyroid marker. You may get your hormones tested, but let's say your testosterone, they check total testosterone. And so let's just address that quickly. Let's say thyroid, right? A lot of women later start being diagnosed with Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. If you only check TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, it does not give you a full picture, because you need to have a full panel. It has to include free T4, T3, reverse T3, thyroid antibodies, because otherwise you don't know what's going on. With the testosterone, if you only check total testosterone, you think, oh, the testosterone level is fine, but you need to check for free testosterone, because that's the active testosterone which is in the system. Or another thing is the lab ranges are so wide, and that's another thing, because unfortunately, what the labs do, they take the results of 10,000 patients and they're like, okay, so this will be the range of normal. But unfortunately, American population is for most part a sick population. Maybe you don't have the disease fully developed yet, but you're on the way there. And so the range can be super wide.
Yeah.
So you are within the normal range, but it's a very poor range. Let me give you an example, which is my favorite, vitamin D levels. So the norm is considered to be from 30 to 100. So it's a 70 points range. And that's super wide, because when you're at 30, it's actually you're very low in vitamin D still. Like functional wellness range is from 60 to 80. That's where you want to be. That's the optimal range. But again, traditional medical world, somebody brings you labs, you take a look, everything in the green, you don't even look at the number. You're like, oh, okay, it's normal. But if your vitamin D is 30, you fall with, or 31, you fall within the range, it's still super low. Or like when it's 100, maybe a little bit too high. So there is a much tighter range, and that's what I also look at when I review blood work with my clients, because now, I'm well aware what the optimal range should be, where your body functions its best.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a big
And
difference.
and that's correct. What you're describing is that reference range on the standard blood test, right? That's essential for the average of the population that's already unwell, right? So we're actually measuring ourselves against the bar that is called to be healthy, but that bar may not be accurate for you, right? So no diagnosis for the conventional medicine means you're healthy, but at the same time, you may be on one or the other panel not as healthy as you should be, right? So you don't know that something is wrong, but your body is still saying that things are not well.
Yeah.
And the shift that you're talking about is really so crucial because our body speaks what it needs. And I want to talk about that frame of work of identifying what your body actually needs through the symptoms that the person gets, not through the blood results that are actually showing it,
Mhm.
because you're really I think you've built something very important from four core pillars, as we spoke about, right? And I think if a woman understands these pillars, it would give her a roadmap. So, just to guide on this, you work with those four pillars: nutrition, lifestyle, nervous system regulation, and targeted supplementation, right? You talked about all four. Take us through each one of them, not the clinical way, but in a way that actually helps real women setting it at home and understanding the whole frame of what they need. What does it actually mean in that woman's life?
Right. So first we start with nutrition. First, let me explain something. When the symptoms start shifting and you don't feel like yourself anymore, a lot of times it means that there is inflammation. And the older we get, the more chronic inflammation is accumulating in your system. Sometimes it can be the food that you're eating. Sometimes it can be toxin exposure. Sometimes it's parasitic load. Sometimes it's constant stress. So, whatever it is, a lot of times we have chronic inflammation which has built up and brought you to the point where you don't feel good. You feel exhausted, you don't sleep well, you're gaining the weight, you're anxious, you're depressed, and so on. So, first, what you can control is your nutrition. So, a lot of times we start with elimination diet. So, we remove foods, which a lot of times cause you to have a lot of issues with your health. We know some inflammatory foods. Everybody knows about processed foods. Now we are more aware that dairy for some people can be very inflammatory. Gluten can be inflammatory. Soy products, seed oil. So we have women start with very clean diet for a month. And you would not believe it. We do assessments, just like a woman rates her own symptoms, and we have a score and then inflammation score. And then after a month, we have them retake that. And a lot of times the score just cuts in half just by diet alone. We don't even start with supplements yet. So a lot of times when you eat cleaner diet, you remove inflammatory foods. That's number one step, right? And then we try to reintroduce them because I know it's hard. And if you notice that they still cause inflammation symptoms, you stop them for a little longer and then we try to reintroduce them. It's not like it has to be done forever. For some women, yes, if they already got into autoimmune disease or cancer category, you don't want to be reintroducing those things. But for majority, you're mostly able to reintroduce a lot of foods. So that's
Mhm.
number one. Then we work on sleep. So we discuss sleep hygiene, right? A lot of us are on our phones, computers, TVs, up to the moment we hit the pillow. So I definitely do explain how you need to structure your day. So the last hour before sleep, you don't do that, right? So we talk about that. We talk about exercise. And then sometimes when you're super stressed, you don't want to exercise too much. You want to take it easy. You still need to move your body, but in easier ways, maybe walking or yoga. And then power exercise is super important for women of our age because they start losing muscle mass. So that's another thing. So that's the lifestyle part, and I do coaching on that.
That's
Third
amazing.
is,
Yeah.
sorry?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, third was nervous system regulation or stress regulation. So yes, we also do the assessment on stress, and we see, actually, I'll have a workshop coming up this week, wired, tired, or both, and I invite you all to join because we will be doing live stress assessment where you could find out, are you wired? Meaning, are you anxious to the point where when you are ready to go to sleep, all of a sudden you lie down, you're ready, you're tired, but then your brain just keeps going and the racing mind and you can't fall asleep, or
Yeah.
you sit down to rest but you're going through the list of things to do the next day. So that's how some women function. And then some women, like, they get so exhausted after functioning in this high stress environment for many years that they get tired, so burnt out. So no matter what and how much they push themselves, it's super hard for them to function in the way that they did. And then sometimes it could be wired and tired. So you're exhausted, but you also can't relax. So it's sad, but we do work on it.
Mhm.
And again, there are some techniques that we use: mindfulness, meditation, walking, spending time with your loved ones, like trying maybe to write in a journal, gratitude journal, or list the things you need to do so they don't keep going through your head. But also starting some supplements potentially for stress resilience, because when your stress is lower, your cells of the body are functioning better. You also rewrite what you tell yourself, because a lot of times you are telling yourself, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, and when you talk to yourself that way, you're not going to do well, you're not going to progress well in life because you're going to be stuck in that state. So you
Mindset.
need to
Yeah.
learn how to talk to yourself. And I know you teach women a lot about that.
Right. I wanted to comment on this
Yeah,
because
go
when
ahead.
when you describe and talk about nervous system and nervous system regulation, this is really, it lit something in me because this is really what I do with the coaching work, both with as a brain coach and as a healing and empowerment coach. That's exactly where so many people are stuck in their mindset. Their
Mhm,
body are running on constant stress response, so they never fully switch off, right? And they just normalized in a complete way that they don't recognize it as a stress
mhm,
anymore. And it feels like just the part of life. But the cortisol level, which is a silent killer of memory, by the way, cortisol kills brain cells literally. So people that have brain fog and loss of memory could be because of stress.
mhm,
Um, if you've been following, I opened something that's called the blue zones. If anyone doesn't know what the blue zones are areas in the world where people live to 100 and over. And part of the things that keep them live for so long is the fact, first of all, community, like you said, meditation, walking, electronics, like everything you're talking about is what is responsible for longevity,
yeah,
right?
mhm,
Because the body keeps a score. And there's a book that actually says that the body keeps a score. Things that happen to you, the body doesn't forget just because your mind pushed it through, right? Sorry, somebody walked in. You can walk into room two. Room two? Yes, please. Sorry, guys. But I think so. What I was saying is the body keeps a score. No matter what happens, you can forget that, but your body remembers those
yeah,
situations. And it brings me to the topic of the next topic, which a lot of my audience have been definitely waiting to hear about you talking about it, because it is something that so many women are confused, scared, and frankly, just not sure about, right? Perimenopause. Perimenopause is it's when we feel that we just don't know how to approach this anymore. I feel that we finally, in culture, in a cultural moment, the word is being said out loud, and it's okay to say it out loud because now people probably know more aware, but yet the conversation is so fragmented. Women are piecing information together from Google search and maybe now AI and some reels, and they feel more confused
Mhm.
than they ever been. So, from your clinical function and medicine that you're doing, what do you wish every woman knew about perimenopause that she's almost certainly not being told?
Yes, you're right. There's a lot of noise out there because, I am on social media and I see, and there are men advising women on perimenopause. There is so much confusing information that I'm very grateful for the education that I have, for my clinical experience, functional wellness experience, that I have my own opinion and set of knowledge, but I'll share. So first of all, perimenopause. It's
Mhm.
the period of life when your hormones start fluctuating and it's leading up to the menopause. Menopause is when you stop having your periods for 12 months in a row. That's when you officially are in menopause. And so this period of perimenopause leading up to menopause can last from 2 to 10 years. And it can start from age 35 to it can go up to like 52, 55 years old. So for each woman, that period is going to be different. And
Mhm.
a lot of it depends on genetics. So you can ask your mom when she, or your aunt, your immediate family members,
Women, you're
females.
like, mhm.
Yeah, at what age did they hit menopause? And a lot of times you will know that you will likely hit somewhere in that range. And then you need to listen to your body because everybody knows hot flushes and night sweats come with menopause.
Right.
But those symptoms are very late perimenopause, and some women don't even have them. But what first you notice is that you don't feel like yourself. Like I said, for some women, it will be sleep. For a lot of women, it will be sleep because a lot of women can't fall asleep. Or if you fall asleep, then you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep, or you could keep waking and you never go into deep sleep and you wake up exhausted. And that was what was happening to me. And I didn't realize why initially. Then fatigue, where you used to run marathons and exercise in the gym 5 days a week and like handle family, job, business. And all of a sudden now you like dragging yourself. You can't really do that because it makes you
Mhm.
feel even more exhausted. That's one of the symptoms. Then weight gain. You're eating the same number of calories, you haven't changed your diet, you're exercising, yet you're gaining pounds. And some women, it can be 20, 30 pounds, and around the middle, like the belly, some of that goes into the hips, you feel puffy, and you're like, what is going on? I'm doing everything right, but that's what's happening. And then just like muscle aches, joint aches, you start getting like whispers, like things start going wrong and you're like, what is going on? The labs are normal, but you don't feel good.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and then later your periods also, they start fluctuating for some women. It starts like being not on schedule, not as regular, sometimes more heavy, sometimes lighter. But it's just like you don't predict them as well as you could. Like if you were a regular every 28 days, it lasts 4 to 5 days and then you're fine. Now all of a sudden, like you can't really track it in the calendar because it's all over the place.
One more thing I notice with women that are going through perimenopause is is them just addressing this all of those symptoms, right? Where they have brain fog, mood swings, disruption sleep, anxiety. And what happens when they go to a doctor with those symptoms? They walk out with an antidepressant.
Yeah,
And I just, maybe it's just me. I am so against this quick fix because that's what it is, right? It's quick fix. Here, take some antidepressants. But maybe that wasn't the right way or the right approach.
yeah. Yeah, can I share? So I mentioned that I work in psychiatry. I still do a couple of hours a week.
Mhm.
During COVID, my hours in my main job got like reduced, and my mom is a psychiatrist. She trained me, and they needed help because one of her partners passed away during COVID. So she had me pick up some load with patients. And the reason I didn't start doing psychiatry full time is because a lot of times when you start somebody on antidepressant, it's really hard to get them off of it because antidepressant definitely, when you are in severe depression and you have suicidal thoughts, you need help. You need to see a psychiatrist. You need to do therapy. You have to address it with medication because it works fast.
Right.
But then when you get better, I recommend for you to look deeper. What is it? Maybe it's gut dysbiosis. Do you know if you carry parasites or if you carry fungus load, those pathogens or bacteria, they eat up, like let's say you take a supplement, they eat that supplement before it gets into your body. Or you eat good protein meal, but you don't absorb it because of the parasites and they mess up your gut microbiome. Let me talk a little bit about that. Microbiome is a collection of bacteria, fungus, viruses, parasites, which you have in your gut. And everybody has that because we live in the world where we're surrounded by a lot of people. We eat sometimes raw fish, we eat raw salads, we travel, so that's how we have pets. So that's how you pick up that load.
Right.
And then it suppresses good bacteria. And then you start having symptoms, and sometimes you brought up the right point. Sometimes they can be psychological symptoms, anxiety, depression, bipolar, mood swings. And a lot of times they stem from the gut, they stem from your stress, and antidepressants are not going to fix that. So yes, they'll boost your serotonin, you'll feel better, but they're not fixing the root problem,
Yeah.
the root cause. And so you will have to be on antidepressants for the rest of your life most of the time if that's the route you choose. But if you choose to fix your microbiome, if you choose to work on your stress, if you get the root addressed, then your symptoms get better. But again, functional medicine does not work fast. It's a process. It can take weeks to months to years in some cases where you already have diagnosis of disease like autoimmune conditions, cancer, and so on. So you really need to address your severe depression with medication first if you're there. So there's definitely space for that. And they do work. It does take a few weeks, but it's much faster than just trying to address the gut first. But if you have mild symptoms, whispers, don't ignore the whispers
Yeah.
because your body is very smart. It lets you know what is happening, when it's happening. So if you wait too long, then you're going to be diagnosed with disease, and then it's much harder. It takes much longer to reverse those things. So don't wait, address things.
I'm so happy you mentioned that because really the difference between treating the symptoms and addressing the cause root is the difference. And when I say that I'm not happy about medication because they become the quick fix that people just depend on without looking at the root cause and looking for ways of, like you said, weaning off the medication and stay healthy by yourself with fixing the gut. Gut has a lot to do it. Again, as a brain coach, there is a vagus nerve that's the most important component that goes straight from your gut to your brain. So a lot of the brain fog symptoms could be because your gut is not aligned, because you don't have the right microbe and parasites that needs to be cleansed for sure. But naturally, I want to address what most women really are challenged with, and that is hormone therapy. Because there's a lot of misconception and some things that people think about hormone therapy, HRT, right? I know that even saying these words can make some women tense up because they've been hearing so much and they have so much fear around just this topic. And some of this fear really comes from research, and some of it just comes from the misinterpretation of that research. A lot of women left paralyzed, afraid to just try hormone therapy, and just not sure who to trust. So, what is your take on it, and how do you guide women through that decision?
Thank you. In my functional practice, I don't provide the replacement, but I'll share my thoughts about it. And they have shifted through years. Like I said, I love to learn, I love to listen to science. And yes, many years ago, when I was first starting out, women were getting replacement. And then there was studies which said, oh no, it leads to breast cancer, ovarian cancer, you should not touch it. And so for many years, doctors were afraid to prescribe it. Now there is much more awareness that hormone replacement is important for many women. But now, again, from a functional perspective, right? So yes, now everybody's getting replaced hormones. But a lot of times, imagine if your house is burning, right? Your body is a house, it's burning. It has all this chronic inflammation, toxin burden, parasites, and you put hormones into a broken system. You're trying to extinguish this fire, but with something small, right? Not a huge fire extinguisher, like a bucket of water. It's not going to really do anything because then you just throw these hormones into a broken system. It may help you for a little bit, but then you'll feel worse again because you did not address the root cause. So what you need is you need to extinguish the fire. You need to address your house. So you need to work on the gut health. You need to work on the stress, on the sleep, proper supplementation, vitamins, botanicals to get you to a better health, detoxify your body, detoxify. We didn't really talk about toxin load, which a lot of us carry. We use perfumes, deodorants, a lot of makeup. All of that actually is toxins going into your body. We wear sometimes, not cotton clothing. The detergents have all this like added chemicals, so the toxin load is very high in the body. So you need to detoxify. You need to take yourself out of that toxic environment, change to something more natural. That's another thing we work with my clients. So it's the diet, the toxin load, the parasites, the stress. So you address the whole system first, you
Right.
bring you to optimal health through that. And then if you still need hormones, yes, maybe for some period of time you will benefit from them. But again, I'm not against hormones. I'm not for hormones. I'm saying that hormones have a place. You also need, what we also do is DNA testing, to see genetic predispositions for detoxification. We do hormone testing, Dutch testing, where we can see how your hormones are processed through your body, what happens to the estrogen, which pathway it takes. So sometimes estrogen can go into the right pathway, so it gives you, the glow and so on. But sometimes it can go into dangerous carcinogenic pathway. So there is still a risk of breast cancer, let's say, if your estrogen metabolizes in the wrong pathway. So before you start hormonal replacement or optimization therapy, as I like to call it now, I recommend that you address the system. I recommend that you get tested to see what is your genetic predisposition, what is your hormonal pathways, so you know it's safe for you to do it. That's my take on it.
So that headline of hormones are dangerous, right, was essentially so loud, very broad, oversimplified of something that has so much more depth into it. And it has cost so many women their quality of life for decade. So That is exactly why the practitioner relationship matters so much. You all really need someone who will actually sit down with you, look at your individual picture, and not just hand a one size fit all answers. You need someone like Elena because she just someone who knows the bigger picture and she lived it. And I think you might be surprised with what you'll find out about yourself. Um, Now, what that actually brings me to another thing that I know that you're very good at. You are a certified master Reiki practitioner, and you have training in clinical homeopathy. Um, you also have 27 years of conventional medical medicine experience. So, how do you reconcile all of these two worlds together, and how do you introduce energy into medicine and to the patient that might be a little bit skeptical about what can be done?
Yes, that's a good question. I don't really practice Reiki on my patients, but I always practice Reiki on myself and my family members who are sick. And you just channel the energy. Maybe you've heard about chakras and like the energy. So I am being the transmitter of that energy when I practice Reiki. So it's basically I channel that energy and I send it to the person who needs it. So. Um, I read a lot of books, as I said, and read certain books like Mind Power, into 21st Century, The Law of Attraction, The Secret. Like we all know that our thoughts are energy. So even if we are not practicing Reiki or doing homeopathy, which is also kind of energetic healing, remember, we are all energy, each of cells, and you as a biochemist, you know that very well as a professor. Yeah, so each cell, right? But our thoughts are also energy, physical energy, which you send out into the universe. And many years ago, my mom introduced this book to me, like about 20 years ago, and I started thinking differently. So the analogy John Kehoe says in his book is imagine your brain as a garden and you're a gardener. And so if you don't feel like you're in control of your brain, your thoughts are controlling you, there's all these weeds and they're overgrowing in your garden. And so you as a gardener, when you realize you're thinking bad thoughts, you need to kind of get rid of them, right? You need to like stop yourself and reword it in a positive way or like think differently. Try to concentrate on positive thoughts, and then you will attract powerful, positive energy into your life. So I definitely shifted how I was thinking. And there was so many things in my life that prove that mind power is like amazing. You
Yeah.
can really call things into your life. And what's also, let's say, an example, I was trying to switch from one job to another, and I wasn't sure if it's the right thing for me. And I asked my mom, so like, if you don't know what to do, how do you call that thing into your life? And she says, okay, just tell the universe or God, right? It's the energy. It's
Yeah, I love it.
yeah, just tell them to tell you, like so it works out in your best interest. And that's when I started doing that. And yes, it worked out that I got the job. It did work out in my best interest. And then there was a salary question, and the boss asked me, "What salary do you want?" And I said, "Can I think about it?" So next week I had the number in my mind, but that was like 60% more than I was making in another place. And I'm like, it's probably not going to happen. But then, like, I was walking in the garden before I met up with him, and like half an hour, and I was saying that number in my head. And so I come in, and he says, okay, so what did you think? And I said, can you give me the number like you're willing to pay me? And he tells me that number, and I was like, wow. I said, I'll take it. So
Yeah.
it happened so many times in my life that I strongly believe in this energy and the mind power and God and the universe, so it's definitely something that it's super, super important. So yeah, definitely I use energetic healing and then energy of the words and of the thoughts in my practice all the time. Even in my conventional practice, I try to put the right things people's minds and shift the way they think. And I offer homeopathy through my ENT practice and psychiatry practice. And people are willing because everybody wants to do more natural healing now, and the vitamins and the supplements. So, yeah, so I'm able to kind of incorporate it in both worlds.
And I love that answer because you're not asking anyone to choose one or the other. You're just saying, here's the whole toolkit.
Right.
Here's science, here's the energetic piece, and they are not opposition to each other. They're just complementary. And honestly, that is such a mature way to view healing because a lot of us are just resistant to the even this positive thought, that positive mindset. And what you're describing is probably in parts the law of attraction, and people just think they have to just take it and think about it and that's going to happen. It's a combination. It's not just thinking about it, it's a whole combination of your mindset, which is so important. And I think that for a long time the medical world and the wellness world actually have been kind of a standoff, right? Like it's either science or that woo woo, right? And there's no middle ground. And what you're modeling is that it's actually a middle ground. It's actually where most of the powerful healing is happening, right in the middle, adjusting both worlds. So I absolutely love that idea.
It's thinking positive, but also take the steps that you need to take because he
Yeah.
wouldn't come to my other job, take me by hand and give me the salary, right? So you need to
Yeah. And I
apply,
love
you
that
need to do the
example.
interview, you need to show how good you
Yeah,
are. So,
absolutely.
right.
I love that example because a lot of people, and I hope those people that are watching it will use that example because sometimes you need to see it to believe that it's possible.
Mhm.
And it's actually the perfect bridge into what I'm going to ask you next. Because in my work as a coach, I talk constantly about the connection between what's happening in your mind and what's happening in your body. And you even said the power of words, right?
Mhm.
And you see that from the clinical side in a way that I just absolutely find it fascinating. I do believe that what you say will happen. And from your years of clinical medicine, including your work as in psychiatry, what have you actually observed about the connection between woman's internal world, her belief, her stress patterns, her emotional story, and her history with the connection of her physical health? What does science says, and what have you seen with your own eyes?
Oh my God, that connection is super strong. You cannot deny it. It's there, and I see it over and over. People, women who internalize stress, who don't know how to live outside of the stress, who don't know how to deal with it. A lot of times they're being diagnosed with significant conditions because stress affects your gut. Gut affects your immune system. 70%, 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So when the stress is high, your gut microbiome shifts, bad bacteria, parasites take over, and then your immune system suffers and you develop autoimmune disease. You can develop cancer because what is cancer? It's the mutated cells. And then if your immune system does not send your cells to kill those mutated cells, then those bad cells start growing and produce a tumor. So a lot of times there's a direct connection between stress,
Yeah.
gut health, immune health. Actually, my functional wellness coach, the mentor who I'm learning from, his concentration is cancer. And he taught us a lot about the correlation between stress, gut microbiome, and cancer. And he does the same structured approach for his cancer patients, but he says it's best not to get there, right? Because it's very hard then, because then you also need to balance conventional and functional medicine. And then the mindset is crucial because, again, he works with his clients on the mindset because
Right.
if a person is going to think I'm going to die, this is the end of me, that's what's going to happen. The
Yeah.
disease, your cells of the body are listening to the instructions that you give your mind. And that's what I was taught by this book. And then my mom is a psychiatrist. That's what she teaches her patients. That's what I teach my patients and clients is your body listens to what instructions you give it. So if you tell yourself, I'm healthy, my body's healing itself, your body is listening. If you tell yourself, oh my God, it's not fun, one thing, it's another. If I don't, I'm not getting well, my body sucks, it's broken, that's what is going to manifest. I'm a strong believer that you need to turn the story you tell yourself, that you tell your body it's healing and it's going to listen to you.
Yeah.
There was Louisa Hay. Many years ago, she wrote a book. She was diagnosed with breast cancer,
Yes.
and she had a lumpectomy, but she did not proceed with like chemo and radiation therapy. And she actually she changed her lifestyle completely. She was spending time in the sun, she was relaxing, she was eating the right diet, she was exercising, she surrounded herself with positive people. And she was telling her body, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. And she healed herself. And she wrote the book, and she's a powerful speaker. Uh, you could look her up on YouTube and so on. And there are so many examples of people curing their disease, people who were half paralyzed or even paralyzed, they started walking. So it's amazing the connection between your mind and your body. It's undeniable. I've seen it in my practice so many times. So definitely address that. Try to maybe get the book, Mind Power into 21st Century, John Kehoe, or The Secret, or The Law of Attraction, The Happiness Advantage. I can name so many books I've read,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
basically the idea is the same. You
Well,
need to, yeah,
you
go ahead.
mentioned Louise Hay, and
Yeah.
her book is You Can Heal Your Body. That's the book that you're describing. And she actually describes how to imagine that tumor
Mhm.
and
Yes.
really, through the power of believing, cure that pain. And I go through this with my own self. I do that myself. Joe Dispenza, who was paralyzed after, I believe, a car accident. I hope I'm not mistelling the story, but the doctors told him he will never walk again, ever. And look at him. He's not just walking, he's teaching all of that. So thank you for mentioning the books. If any of you are interested in mindset changing and Exceed Learning Center, we do have a book club. And that's all we read. We read all those powerful things. So what you actually are describing, it's so interesting because I'm thinking all about all of those high achieving women. Those high achieving women, they run on adrenaline, and that adrenaline never turns off. Whatever they're going through, it made them, those women, their stress identity. That's their identity. And I know that woman. I coach those women. I have been that woman. And that description is not a character flaw. It's really a biological pattern that we just do because of survival. It's a mechanism that we've created. But learning to ground yourself and learning to know
Mhm.
things to calm yourself down. You even mentioned how to wean off yourself throughout towards the night, right? An hour before you go to sleep. Take a walk. All of these tools are so important. And many people think when they get diagnosed with disease that the body have been betraying them. No, it's just a logical response that the body is betraying you, but the body is not. And for every woman that watches this, write that down because so much of the stuff that we're going through, so much from the suffering that I see women being angry at their body, being ashamed of their systems, and the symptoms that they're having, fighting themselves with, weight gain, as you mentioned. And all of that description is so different with the way we look at ourselves. And if we change that look and stop judging ourselves, and I can bring that short example of myself. I've been gaining a lot of weight unexpectedly, just like you're saying, with, you know, keeping my diet, going to the gym 5 times a week, doing all that. Eventually, I just said, I'm happy the way I am. And I'm loving the body that I have. And many women struggling with loving themselves.
Mhm.
And when they don't love themselves, the result is that nothing seemed to work. So I love that you talk about this because I seriously, seriously think that's the biggest work that people have to do, loving themselves as they are, and
Mhm.
then put all those puzzles together. And when that shift happens, when a woman actually understands, fully understands what's going on, that's when the transformation begins. What's going on inside the body? It's not a flaw that you're gaining weight. It's a disbalance of your gut. And that's disbalance starts with parasite cleansing, which I do twice a year for the last 6 years. And I have my kids do that as well. This is so important. So what does thriving actually look like, Elena? What does it look for the woman on the other side when the root cause now has been addressed, the hormones are balanced, the nervous system is regulated, the mindset, which is not separable and it's very important, supports her instead of sabotaging her because now the mindset, I call them ants, automatic negative thoughts. Just like an ant, if you have a crump in a minute, you're going to have a ton of ants. That's what happens with your negative thought. One negative thought spirals a whole bunch of those negative thoughts without you actually noticing it. So just by noticing those automatic negative thoughts and rewiring them, well, what do you think becomes possible? What have you actually witnessed that becomes possible?
Oh my God, so many wonderful things become possible. A woman can feel like herself, like her optimal health, happy, full of energy. She can lose the unwanted weight, sleep better, have stress resilience. Obviously, I also work with high achieving clients. So uh, it's a workload, family load, business, whatever it is, and you are able to juggle all your responsibilities and not feel anxious, depressed, irritable with all of that. You're able to fall asleep. You're able to also carve out time for yourself, to do the walk, to go to the gym, to enjoy your family time, and you feel happy doing it. And when you look in the mirror, you recognize yourself, you give yourself credit for all the work that you do, and you just feel happy in your body. And that's what, I definitely want for every woman who's listening to us right now. And I'm so happy that we click in so many and we resonate with each other in so many points.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here and I'm saying yes, because that is exactly what limitless look like, you guys. It's not a perfect body. We don't have a perfect body. We don't have perfect life. It's just waking up and feeling like yourself again. And it's having the energy to show up for things and for people that actually matter in your life. It's the mindset that you're working with you instead of against you. That is the whole game. And that's why we both are doing what we're doing. I know you're passionate about what you're doing. And I want to acknowledge something because what Yelena is describing is not a quick fix. It's not a 30-day detox. This is a real investment in understanding yourself and rebuilding yourself from the inside out. And that requires finding the right guide, someone who will actually see you and hear you and stay with you through the process. Right. So for every woman that's watching this right now and thinking, okay, I need this, where do I start? We're going to make sure that Yelena's information is everywhere in the comments and descriptions, every post that I will post, every reel that I'll post on this. But first, I have one more question, and I want you to end here with that question because I think this is so important for the takeaway of today. If you could go back and talk to yourself at the beginning of your own health struggle, before you had the answers, when you still exhausted and dismissed and were doubting yourself, what would you tell that self? What do you wish you had known sooner?
Well, I wish that I would have known that it was perimenopause, that hormonal fluctuations are a part of my journey, and that I will find the answers, and also that the answers are out there, right? I actually want to invite women to join my free community. I do have online free community portal. Personalizedholistichealing.com. You
We'll put
can
that in
join
the
the free
comments
community,
after.
yeah, and you'll join my weekly lives, and then I do monthly workshops. There's a lot of free information,
Amazing.
recipes, self-care routines, and you could book a consult and we can talk. But yes, definitely, a lot of it is in your mindset. And so I would say,
Yeah.
Elena, things will work out. Give myself a hug. That, there are
Yeah.
people in our lives that make a difference. There is a lot of information available, and you're not alone. Olga is here, I'm
So
here,
amazing.
and there are a lot of other wonderful women in our community and outside of the community who are able to help us. So don't feel like you're alone. Don't allow yourself to feel dismissed. We see you, we want to help you. Please reach out.
And most importantly is that the gift that me and you give to all the women that are listening to us is because we first gave that gift to us.
Yeah.
We first learn how to take care of the person that will take care of others. And that is more powerful than any healing that you can think of. If you approach someone who has done that road, if you get the help from someone who knows exactly how it feels, that is the real help. That is the help that goes priceless because we can get you to where you want to get through our own experience. So I want to give a message to every woman that's watching here. I know she's exhausted. I know she's seen multiple doctors. She's been told that her labs are fine. She is Googling her symptoms at 2 a.m. She's wondering if this is just what her life will look from now on. She's starting to stop believing that everything can change. Elena, what do you want to say directly to that woman?
I would like to tell you there is the light at the end of this tunnel. You're not alone. So the resources are available to you. Just look around. You are surrounded by so many bright, high-achieving women who are able to share the resources with you. Try to reach out to people. Don't stay stuck by yourself. There is help available. So just tell yourself that you are able to become the version of yourself that you want to be. And if you need help, definitely we're here for you.
That is perfect because this is exactly what she needed to hear. And I just want to add, you are not broken. You're not making it up. Your body is not your enemy because help exists and there are answers. And you deserve a practitioner who actually will look at those answers. Um, if this conversation touched you and if you kind of feel connected to it, that feeling is information. Don't ignore that. Follow that feeling because that pulls off that feeling towards your own healing is the most important instinct that you have. So if you felt that we were speaking to you, we were. Take care of yourself. Yelena, I cannot thank you enough because honestly, this conversation is going to ripple out in so many ways. And neither of us predicted that. And I hope many women heard that. And what's happening with that information is hopefully the next step for women's health and many more women understanding that there is hope. I'm so grateful for the work that you do. And thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Thank you so much. It was a beautiful conversation, and you are so inspirational in so many ways. And I'm very happy that you have invited me on this podcast, and I hope we'll continue our collaboration.
Absolutely. And to everyone who's watching and listening, thank you so much for being here. Please share this episode. Tag a woman in your life who actually needs to hear Yelena's story, who actually needs to start taking care of herself, because you might be the reason she actually found her way to the answers she's been looking for. You can find Yelena, and I will put all her information and the links and her community. Please feel free to follow her, join her community. And if you feel cold, reach out to her. She is the real thing, and she will help you. This is Limitless Live. I'm Olga Benyaminov. I will see you again tomorrow at 2 p.m. at my usual time. And until then, keep pushing, keep growing, keep showing up for yourself, because the most limitless version of your life, of yourself in your life, is still waiting for you. And you are more ready than you think you are. Be well. Thank you all so much, Elena. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.